This has caused a stir on Twitter. It's on Reddit. I've seen a lot of people giving their very, very strong-minded opinions about this. This is the EA Sports alumni roster. And in this video, I wanted to go over Vancouver Canucks players who are going to be maybe featured on the Vancouver Canucks alumni team in NHL 20. Now, I don't have the game early. I don't really buy video games anymore, nor am I really seen as a video game player. I guess I'm not one of the X-Techs or the Don't Be Sods or the Bacon Countries. I'm not one of those guys. I'm more of a hockey NHL commentator person. Less of the video game, more of the real life stuff. So I didn't get the game, nor did I shell out the money to get the game early like some people do. But I wanted to take a look at the alumni roster for the Vancouver Canucks, because NHL 20 is going to feature alumni teams of every NHL team, as well as a few defunct teams. And now that I'm thinking about it, is it actually every current NHL team? What the heck are they going to do with Vegas? But I digress. Hartford's got their team back in this game, Quebec's got their team back in this game, and the Vancouver Canucks have their own alumni team too, that is comprised of players that people are going to be quite interested in, I guess. EA actually revealed the entire list of alumni players that they're going to include in the game. However, they didn't actually say which players are going to be on which teams. You'll notice that a lot of these players have played for several NHL teams, so whether or not they're going to be alumni of one team, or the team that they were the most prominent on, or all teams, who really knows? So let's go over onto our Canucks and check out Wingding Canucks post here, because he took all the players that were released in the alumni list in its entirety and singled out the ones that played for the Vancouver Canucks. Now, he actually missed out on two, I think. Mark Messier is listed on the NHL alumni, but he will definitely not be in the Canucks alumni team. And the other guy is actually Andrew Alberts. I'm actually really surprised that he's going to be in this alumni game, either for the Vancouver Canucks or the Boston Bruins, because those are the only two teams that he's played for. Actually, no, he played for the Flyers and the Hurricanes too, but only for a season each, so I don't know what team he's gonna be on. Probably Vancouver, because he played the most games with them, I believe, but anyways, let's go over onto the list here. Players who are on NHL 20's alumni list who happen to have played for the Vancouver Canucks. It's quite interesting because some names that people thought are very prominent are actually missing. Andrew Cassels is on here. He played the majority of his career with the Hartford Whalers, so I don't know what team he's going to be on, but he was also on Vancouver, Calgary, and Columbus before finishing his career with Washington. The Canucks had his son as a prospect for a while, but Cole Cassels is now in Germany, I believe, so that's interesting, but Andrew Cassels is on here. Next up, we have Brad May, who wasn't super high profile, but he played a lot of games in the NHL. 1,041 NHL games played, spread between so many teams, but he was with the Canucks for a little bit here. He's in the game as well. Then we have Dana Murzyn, who spent a very long time with the Canucks in the 90s, so I'm pretty sure he's going to be on our alumni team and not the Calgary Flames. Dave Babych is on here, who was a notable Hartford Whaler and Winnipeg Jet, but he was with the Canucks for a few years, and he was with the Canucks during their 94 playoff run, so I'm pretty sure he's going to be on the Canucks alumni team. We then have Dennis Kearnes, another guy who played his entire NHL career with the Vancouver Canucks, one of their best defenders in terms of statistics and all that. He was a great player for the Canucks back in the 70s. Then we have ourselves Garry Valk, who is kind of interesting. He's a broadcaster right now, and he covers the Canucks games sometimes, so it's really interesting to see him on there, but he was also a Vancouver Canuck. He played during the West Coast Express era. He was actually a Leaf and a Duck longer, but oh well. Garth Butcher was a crazy enforcer who got a ton of points as well for the Canucks in the 80s. He's on this list too. Then we have Geno Odjick. I don't need to say anything. He's going to be a great player. He was a Vancouver Canucks heart and soul type of guy. Greg Adams is on here too. 94 run. That's pretty much all you need to know. He was a great Canuck too. Harold Snepsts. He's on the list. Jarkko Ruutu, who is arguably one of the best Canucks enforcers ever. Garrett is on here, he's an old Vancouver Canucks goalie. He was with the Nordiques, but as the former Canucks guy, current Canucks color commentator on Sportsnet, he deserves a great place in all of our hearts here. Jyrki Lumme was on the Vancouver Canucks 94 squad. Magnus Arvidsson is a player who played in the mid-2000s with the Canucks. Then we have a big name here. Marcus Naslund. Yeah, I don't need to say anything. Mason Raymond is on here, drafted by Vancouver, grown through the system, and a great player in the 2010s for the Canucks. Matt Sundin is actually listed, but he was a Leaf and a Nordique. He is not going to be on the Canucks alumni team. And then we have ourselves another great name from the 2011 Cup run, Michael Samuelsson, a guy who was a Detroit Red Wing. He could be on their squad too, he helped them win a cup, but he was with the Canucks for a little bit, was a great player. Then Vancouver Canucks draftee RJ Umberger, who didn't actually do anything with the Canucks pretty much, is on here too. Then we have longtime 80s starter for the Vancouver Canucks, Richard Brodeur, also in here as well. He played a ton of Canucks games. Sammy Salo is here too. Another one of those guys, grown up through the system. He was with the Canucks forever, after a few years with the Ottawa Senators, and eventually finishing off with the Lightning again, a 2011 guy. Then we have Taylor Pyatt, who was part of the really stacked West Coast Express Vancouver Canucks. He had some time here, and it was pretty solid as well. He actually spent an equal amount of time, pretty much, with several NHL teams, so we'll see which team he actually ends up on once the game is released. Tony Tanti is on here. Great Canuck. 70, 80-point seasons for this guy back in the 80s. He was a beast, and honestly one of the better Canucks wingers in what appears to be the club's history. Then, Trevor Linden. Yeah, don't need to say anything about that. Willie Mitchell is on here as well, too, as the last name on the list, and he's a guy who was a really big leader for the Vancouver Canucks. I can understand why he's on this team. But he has a realistic shot at being an alumni for any of the other Minnesota or the Florida or the LA teams as well. Then Wing Ding lists two guys that he actually missed out on, Andrew Alberts, I talked about that at the beginning, and Brendan Morrison, who is here as well. He was a great Canuck. No questions asked. Now that list in itself is just the names that the Vancouver Canucks have. This is the NHL 20 alumni list. These players are included, and these players are Canucks. Again, Mark Messier was a Canuck, but we don't want to talk about that. It's interesting because guys like Bure, the Sedins, Ohlund, Jovanovski, Todd Bertuzzi, Stan Smyl, they're all not here. And that caused a huge commotion on Twitter that I saw, and in fact, it's not even just the Canucks. Jerome McGinley is not going to be in here for the Calgary Flames. Danny Alfredson is not going to be here for the Senators. Kippersoft is not going to be there for the Flames. Bobby freaking Orr is not in the alumni teams. Dominic Hasek is not on here. Paul Correa, no Martin Brodeur, just to name a few as the comment here suggests. But it makes sense. At the end of the day, retired players have to give their own rights personally to be included in things like this. But it doesn't really feel good now, doesn't it? When you think alumni team, you think of the best players usually. Usually when you think of an alumni team, unless it's specifically stated, okay, this is the Vancouver Canucks 2003 alumni team, then you think, oh, Brad May, Henrik and Daniel Sedin, Matt Cook, Letowski, Trent Klatt, Bertuzzi, Morrison, Naslund, Jovokop, right? Like, if you put the date on it, then you kind of know. But if you just say overall alumni team, it kind of implies the best players. I mean, I'm not going to complain about this. Having alumni like this is better than not having alumni like this, period. But it's just unfortunate that a lot of these really great players did not give the okay. Either that or EA just didn't reach out to them, I don't know. But The Vancouver Canucks have their alumni team. These are the players that are included on the alumni list that happen to have been Canucks aside Mark Messier, so we will see what the actual alumni team looks like once everybody is able to play the game. Hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.